It's the season for brand new mulch, and Brown's Tree Service has got your yard covered. Brown's Tree Service utilizes hardwood mulch that retains more moisture. Not only does mulch make your yard more appealing, it also reduces weeds, improves soil, and creates insulation for plants. Get the right mulch for your job at Brown's Tree Service. They shred it, haul it, and spread it in bulk. Or you can haul it yourself for the personal touch to your property. Call Brown's Tree Service at 785-379-9212 or visit online at brownstreeservicelc.com.
When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocco's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocco's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 and Gage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
It's time for Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.
Good Saturday morning to you. This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty and the Preferred Advisors team, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. As you know, I have this year started having on a guest for the month to be my co-host and my go-to. So Broderick Jayroe. Broderick is out of Wichita. He is an ERA broker, and he introduced me to equity trading. If you've listened to the past shows, we've kind of hit on that already. We're going to briefly go over that again just in case someone didn't hear it. And then we're going to be talking about equity trading with banknotes. So we're going to really dive in a little bit deeper. But first off, good morning, Broderick. How are you?
Good morning, Carrie. Good to have you back, and thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So, equity trading. Let's hit the high notes just so that they understand what we're talking about.
So, equity trading in general, as we practice it, is something other than traditional buyer-seller paying X number of dollars for property and closing. It gives you alternatives to that. We look for different solutions. We counsel very deeply with our buyers and sellers, and it covers a wide range of activities. And as you mentioned, buying with banknotes today is what our topic is, but it can be anything from 1031 exchanges. It can be personal property for real estate. It can be cash flow or income off of other properties. So it's just a different way of thinking about it, and maybe going past one or two steps to the ultimate end goal or end transaction that the buyer or the seller are looking for.
Right. So these particular meetings happen all over the country, but the one that we went to most recently would have been Vegas. And so let's just talk about in the room. Who's in the room whenever we're there?
Brokers and or broker/principals. So you'll have real estate professionals, and you'll have individuals with inventory. You've got to be a broker to be in the room. And you're talking about the Vegas meeting that you attended, but these happen all over the country. They happen in, if you name a state, there's a group that meets. This particular group just happens to meet in Las Vegas 4 or 5 times a year.
And so, basically, whenever you get there, in the past show we talked about Manhattan. I call it the Manhattan Project. I know that was a movie, but basically in Manhattan, I have at this point a little over 153 doors because I added some to it. And these are investors that have been longtime investors and generations so. And they have reached a point in their life where they want to do something else. But
that's a great example where they're just at a different season.
Yeah, it's not, dire straits or anything crazy like that. Obviously, you own that many doors, you're doing all right. But they just, they want to travel. They don't want to be tied down. They really just want to move into another phase in life. And this is consecutive across all of there are multiple different investors in this. And So for me, I stood up in front of the room and I had a moderator that would ask me questions and I would answer the questions and I would relay what this package is about and where they are, what the goal is. And then they would in turn say, okay, who in the room has someone interested? From that, at this point now, we've gotten 12 offers. The last time we spoke about it, I had 11. And the 12th one, we're gathering up the numbers that they're looking for. And I mean, we're talking $28 million is what we're looking at in these trades. So it was definitely an amazing experience because it was so out of the box from what normal real estate is. You are getting that opportunity to be in front of people that can actually perform in that kind of level.
Yeah, and you may have 2 or 3 people in your area that do this type of thing, but when you are willing to travel, well, I'm going to one in South Carolina here in the next 2.5, 3 weeks. You're meeting with people that are focused on helping their clients do deals, and they're exposing it to different markets. An investor maybe from, let's say, South Carolina doesn't necessarily have to relocate his equity into another property in that immediate area. He may get the same return and maybe some upside in a different part of the country. So that's why it's neat to if you're looking to buy or sell something, or you're not finding exactly what you want in your market. Carrie and I can take you to groups and expose your equity and your inventory, whether it's apartments or retail centers, to a much broader group of potential activity.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about it is of those 12 different avenues that we had the opportunity to explore, they were literally all over the world. And what I had put out to the group was, these are the things that he's looking for. These are the territories he would consider it in. These are the territories he's not interested in buying in. So everybody sitting there knew what it was we were looking for. And then he was able to explore options from literally all 50 states and actually several different countries.
Yeah, and sometimes an investor, a property owner, they're not ready to cash out, and they don't necessarily know what it's going to take to go from point A to point Z, but they do know they want to be at a different spot with their investment. We talked about seeds a while ago. Had an attorney call me, and he said, my client needs to get out of title and go from a management position on his property into an income stream. We alluded to notes at the beginning of this, so the attorney drafted a note and shopped that note around and was able to transition out of the property with a good credit buyer and create an income. Effectively, it was an owner carry, but he didn't have all those pieces lined up, so he created a note on his property and secured it against the property, and was able to then start getting payments on that property. And then that note was negotiable. His accountant and his attorney counseled him to, and just for the sake of this conversation, say $100,000 note against his property, securing the note, and then they were able to take that note, and it then became something that they could negotiate against other goals that they had in their estate. So we, of course, didn't write that note, but it turned it into cash on the terms that they were able to transition with. You could also have a property that's, say, free and clear. Maybe it's a farm, or it's a building that you don't want to necessarily go get a loan against the building, but if you created a note against that building, then you still have that property, and if it has income, you still have that income, but you can use that note to go out and then buy other income property.
Right. So when you think about equity trading and these types of situations, it's definitely outside of the box of what regular real estate, let me put the sign in the yard and hope for a buyer to show up kind of real estate. It's very intriguing, and Broderick does way more than I have. I'm just getting started, and has you go all over the place.
Yeah, we there's several meetings in several groups that we travel around with and get to know the folks and kind of know what they specialize in. There's guys out of Colorado. They've got certain types of real estate that they focus on. Whether it's mini storage or retail centers or duplexes. Groups of single family homes. But when you run into them, you'll kind of know as you get to know the brokers. You'll kind of know what they specialize in, and it's a neat group of guys. You're in a different state every month, and guys and gals. It's a very diverse room, and all sorts of experiences, and you get to know about different parts of the country. There's some guys and gals that just deal in high rises, anything above 10 stories, and they don't care where they're at. That's what they specialize in, and they're very familiar with that type of product. There's other brokers, they only deal in single-family homes. So if you've got something you want to, buy, or if you've got something you want to sell, these sorts of meetings with a broker that attends them and spends their time to go to those marketing sessions can be a super advantage and broaden your possibilities with your transaction.
Absolutely. And it's not just massive portfolios like whenever I talk about the Manhattan Project. There's also, I took a ranch with me. I took a plot of land that has a view over a lake and has the capability for horses. There were several different, I think I had a total of 6 different items that I was able to present. So it's definitely... It's not just one particular thing. You're looking at high rises, as you said, or regular residential or anything in between. There was even some new construction happening in Puerto Rico, and there was another place, tropical. Yeah,
there's a Puerto Rico and I want to say Costa Rica.
Yeah.
That guys have lease ownership in properties that they've traded in and out of some of these groups.
The really intriguing thing is, as we're going to be talking about banknotes, properties with banknotes, but there was also trading happening with life insurance policies, jewelry, art. So don't just think small, think anything that makes the deal work. The life insurance policies are intriguing. You've got people that had big policies. Maybe they had to take out either term or whole life policies. And I'm not an insurance guy. I don't understand how all those things work. But what I know is there is from time to time somebody will present, "Hey, I've got a life insurance policy. If you'll take over the payments, I'll make it available to go in or out of transactions." I haven't done any of those. I have done several banknotes. We have, added in different vacant lots in different areas of the country to make deals work. They call that equalizing the equity. So if you've got a $150,000 property and a gentleman wants it, he brings a $200,000 property because your property will meet his need, then you'll equalize that equity by either adding cash or adding another property. Or you can equalize it by adding a banknote for $50,000. It's a whole new beast in my world, especially because I have been used to, marketing, which we do extensive marketing. I'm on 4 MLSs, obviously radio show, TV, all that good stuff. So definitely more outside of the box than even your normal agent, but still nothing to this caliber. So it's very, very cool. And as Broderick will tell you, pretty much addicting just to be able to go and do it.
It's very exciting. It's not just normal real estate contract stuff. And I'm young in the group. Carrie keeps acting like I'm an old soul there. I'm very young in the group, and Carrie is a neat addition to the meetings. She's very smart, and she gets it very quickly. But there's a lot of folks in those rooms that are very creative. Almost everyone in the room will have a number of buyers and a number of sellers, and much of the activity is created just by having a cup of coffee with them before the meeting, or going to lunch with them, and getting their cell numbers and getting their contact information. And so you can reach out, and it's a network of a couple hundred individuals that do real estate every day, and they do it in a way it's not just Googling, I want apartment complexes, or Googling, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. It's a whole nother type of relationship and networking that can really help buyers and sellers come together.
And it's kind of like a club. You have to be invited in.
You do have to get invited in. You do have to be a broker to get into the group, and it costs money. It's a marketing expense, and you've got to get your mind around what part of my marketing budget will I spend traveling to the meetings to help my buyers buy and help my sellers sell.
Yeah, and it's definitely not chump change to make it either. So it can be a pretty expensive little, I want to say hobby, but it's not a hobby. It's a pretty expensive little job.
It's hard work, but it's fun hard work.
It is. It's very high energy, and that pretty much has to be. I mean, you think you're talking real estate this whole time, and basically think auction, except for specific people in the room. So it's definitely, it's intriguing, but they also teach you. So I know for me to be there, it was required that I go to some of the classes, which were very, very informative. So those guys keeping that lively, and so you don't get that, glazed over look.
Absolutely. And the education is probably as valuable to brokers in the real estate world as the actual trading sessions. They'll have a guy come in and speak on handicap access buildings. What are the laws? And it's a very long day of lots of learning, and it's all important information. It'll help you, guide your clients when they go to look at a property that needs to have wheelchair access, or what are the slopes, what are the grades.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors, but when we come back, we're going to be talking equity trading with banknotes. So don't forget to join us here in just a few.
At SportsMomsUnited.com, we celebrate every athlete and support every sports mom. SportsMomsUnited.com is on a mission to put logic back in youth sports. When you ask young athletes why they play sports, their number one answer is fun. For them, that means being on a team, making new friends, having a good time, all of which are awesome memories. We add to the memories by featuring an athlete of the day and sharing their story. Nominate an athlete today at www.sportsmomsunited.com.
Southwest Topeka has a good neighbor. State Farm agent Jim Garrison, now at 29th and Urish. If your current insurance situation has you going around in circles, get off the roundabout and stop in and meet Jim and his wonderfully efficient staff. Let Jim Garrison give you a quote and make the Garrison comparison. He's confident that with State Farm's competitive rates, the right coverage, and his unmatched service, you'll want to make him your new insurance agent. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and Jim Garrison is there for you, northeast of the roundabout at 29th and Urish.
When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocco's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocco's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 Engage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. I am back with Broderick Jayroe. Broderick is a broker from ERA out of Wichita. Before we get started real quick, I wanted to remind you we have an open house this Sunday from 1 to 2:30 at 1519 Southwest Randolph here in Topeka. This is a really unique property. Renewal Inc., they're new on the scene. They took this down to the studs. So 1930s house, but basically new. The entire interior is new. The exterior is new. They have put in a driveway. It has a new sewer line, all the plumbing, electrical, all of it's new. So you definitely want to stop by and take a look at it, because you're buying in an established neighborhood with established trees, with a lot of character, but it's all new. So be sure and check it out. 1 to 2:30 on Sunday. Okay, Broderick, let's talk equity trading with banknotes. That's a very unique situation, and I understand you have one going on right now. So why don't you break that down for us?
Yeah, so we've got one going on. We've got an out-of-state buyer that wants to be involved on an income property here in Sedgwick County, and he didn't necessarily want to pay what the seller was asking. He felt that the price was a little high, but the seller they're kind of stuck there. So he got creative. He said, I will give him a property as security against a performing banknote. And I say banknote, it's a note created against real estate. There's actually no bank involved. That's just our generic term we throw out there. So he created a note for $1 million with a interest rate that was high enough to attract the interest of the seller on another income property in another state. So the property he wanted to buy was listed at $1 million, and the property he secured his performance note against was worth about $2.5 million. Now, the income property he bought in Sedgwick County, Kansas, he's going to develop it. It has a little bit of income with it, but he's looking for upside on it. He's looking for ways to maybe divide the property, and he needs time to do that. But he didn't want to wait for appraisals and surveys and lot splitting, so he made a very attractive offer to the seller. I'll give you a pledge of a note that's backed by real estate that's worth 2.5 times what you're asking. So the seller, I won't give addresses and details, but it's attractive. He's like, well, if the guy doesn't perform, I end up with a more expensive, more valuable property that's fully occupied and has a great income stream. So we don't always, when we're looking at transactions, in the old days, if you had cash, you could come in and make a low offer and maybe get a little better deal. Well, there's a lot of people in this particular market right now that have cash, so that's not always the best deal. What is the upside? What is the potential? How can we help you solve your problem and achieve your goals? So in this particular case, this buyer isn't actually going to give cash, but he's going to give a note that bears monthly payments. And they're going to trade paperwork back and forth. He's going to be the deeded owner, and he'll be able to spend the next 3 or 4 years developing that property into what his eventual long-term goal is for the property. So he's not writing a check. He's guaranteeing it with other real estate and income off of a note.
Right. I have two similar to that going on in Manhattan right now, and we're still very much in the very beginning stages. But the unique thing about that is some of it still has debt. So how to maneuver that, because yes, $28 million all at one time would be great, but imagine how much of that you would have to give to the government. So you don't want to take a tax hit like that. So it's being constructive about how do you pass ownership, how do you settle up those bank notes, and both scenarios are very similar to that. The other one, young kids just getting started in investments, they want the owner to carry a note for a certain period. Still working out the details of that because, when they're still very, very new, you have to look at the pitfalls and, what happens if you've got a vacancy rate and things like that. So there's so much that goes into maneuvering around that, especially when your party is just getting started. But it just goes to show that there are always constructive ways of getting it done so that, number one, your seller isn't taking this massive hit off the top from the government. And 1031 exchanges definitely help. Obviously, they're going to sink that money back into like kind of some way. But Broderick, what would be...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
What would be your take on that?
We've been in situations and opportunities where we've used 1031s and we've used notes and maybe a little cash. If you've got a buyer that wants to buy and you have a seller that wants to sell, and they're open to ideas, obviously we would like full price, all cash, close in 30 days. But when that hasn't presented itself, from time to time I'm working with there now that He is, he went through he was in a car wreck and went through a situation where he didn't work for a while, so he doesn't necessarily have the current job time, but he's received an inheritance, a nice-sized inheritance, but it's not quite enough to buy the home he wants. So we're going to create a note, or his attorney's going to create a note, and basically it's built-in seller finance. He has income, but he's taken some hits on his credit. Before he was in an accident, his credit was great, but with everything that happens in those situations, he's got some dings on his credit, and it'll take a year or so to repair those. But he is employed now, and he does have some money down, and so they're gonna create a small note with the seller. It's a form of seller financing that will allow him to have a structured payment plan that'll make his taxes and his insurance and a small principal and interest payment. But it put a good person who had some bad circumstances into the property he wanted and that he could afford. So that's a smaller scale. But then Carrie talks about her Manhattan project. That's got a lot of moving pieces, and it'll take creativity and probably some notes to get that transaction done.
Absolutely. And it boils down to the willingness of the seller to be what would you say, creative? Being open to it.
Yeah, or at least, look at situations with different eyes. Maybe we refer to the power of the room when we're in trading sessions. If you just pitch an idea out there, you may have 100 to 150 very talented traders in the room. You may get 10 or 20 really good ideas, and half of them you've never even considered. So when we counsel with people, we'll say, what are you going to do with the money when ultimately somebody walks in and writes you a check? What are you going to do with the money? Well, I'm going to go invest it into income property. Then we're listening, and where do you want that income property? Because we may know where that inventory's at. Or they want to go into some sort of investment, some sort of annuity. Then we can refer them to the proper people that can guide them to that. But if you just ask a bunch of questions, just listen, or ask some questions and do a bunch of listening, sometimes cash might actually hurt them in a transaction. Too much cash, or maybe they've got multiple legal addresses and have one buyer that wants all those properties and one seller that wants to sell all those properties. Timing with your accountant and your attorney could help you defer or manage those capital gains taxes over time.
Absolutely. So, if you've invested and maybe, for instance, you've got, single family, but you want to upscale to multifamily, and you want to do like across the board or something like that, this is definitely a great way to do that. Just be creative with your portfolio. Maybe you got into investments like rental investments and decided, dealing with tenants is not your thing. There are ways to do that too. So, like I said, they're trading art and everything else. So definitely a way of doing it.
There is a creative group of buyers and sellers that, we've got a gentleman that's got literally tons of jade that he's importing right now. And he's looking for real estate to trade into. So if you need jade, give Carrie a call. We've got a gentleman that would like to trade jade for real estate.
I mean, there are exotic snakes we talked about last time. So
there has been real estate down payments made with snakes and pickups. Yeah,
it's incredible. So if you have questions, you're more than welcome to give us a call. My cell phone number is 785-213-5188. Broderick, what's yours?
You can reach me at 316-722-9393.
And again, Broderick, real quick, you are out of Wichita. He is an ERA broker. So, yes, an EXPA broker is talking to an ERA broker. We can still be friends.
We get along just fine, and as soon as we're not on the radio, we're trying to recruit each other. So
yeah, I'm going to win one of these days. All right, thank you so much, Broderick. I'm going to miss having you on as my co-host. Be sure and listen each week to Real Estate 101, and thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.